Hello, boys! What a year we've had! I made so much money I can hand out some very handsome bonuses. Everyone is getting a check for $50,000! Except for you, Andy. You're fired.
What the hell? You can't find me.
I can because I did. Sorry about the tough break, kiddo, but how else would I be able to afford these bonuses and my brand new yacht?
Yeah, well, you know what? You're still not firing me, because I quit.
Nice try. You can't quit, because I quit.
You can't quit, because you're fired.
What?
I said you're fired.
Well, guys, I guess this is goodbye. It was, I really liked being your boss. We had some really great times, huh? Remember when I sold you guys to the devil? That was fun. Or when we pretended to be super extreme. Odyssey Extreme 2019. Well, later, boys.
What?
You don't really quit, do you?
Not yet. I think I have one last stop in me.
He took all our stuff!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Retro Odyssey. This is episode number 23 and this is our Christmas episode. I'm your host Matt and I am joined by Adam, Stephen and Ryan. Hello guys.
Oh.
Hello.
How have you all been doing this month?
Well, I work retail, so this month has been hell.
Yeah, me too.
And I work as an Amazon delivery driver, so...
This month has been hell.
Yeah, last month of the term as well at school, so again, pretty busy.
Did you all have a good Christmas?
Mine was, like, the actual December 25th itself was actually kind of quiet and nice, and yeah, no, that was, I needed it. I needed it so bad.
I mean, my wife had to work Christmas Eve, and we just kind of spent Christmas Day just relaxing.
How about you, Adam?
Well, I've been kind of ill, which I'm still kind of suffering from, so yeah, I've had a fantastic Christmas so far.
Oof.
I can barely talk.
I had a pretty quiet one myself, just me and my mum for Christmas dinner, then went up to see my sister, and that was it really. But yeah, it was a Christmas again.
It was a Christmas.
It was. So, as I said, this is episode number 23, and in this episode, we're doing something a little bit different. We went for like a Christmas theme last year, where we played like Christmas-themed games and stuff like that. This year, the idea behind it is we each chose like a Christmas present, kind of, for the other guys to play. Basically, a game that we like, that we think the other people would like, that we wanted to just get into an episode and talk about. But first, we will jump into the news segment. It's been a bit of a slow month news-wise, but there are one or two things that we can discuss. So we will take a short break and then we'll get into the news segment. Okay, so the news. Like I said, there's not a hell of a lot, but I have a few things here. One that narrowly avoided getting talked about in the last episode was new titles coming to the Nintendo Switch Online for the SNES and NES. Adam, I believe you were saying in the last episode, why haven't we got any new games for a while? And then, like, a couple days later, they announced a bunch of them.
I think it was like the day or so before we actually put out the podcast, and then it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, just to make us look like jerks.
Yeah. I don't know how long it'll be until we get the next update. Could be another 3 or 4 months.
We've got Star Fox 2 coming out, which was previously exclusive to the SNES Mini.
Which now makes the SNES Mini completely pointless, because now it's all available on the Switch.
Not all of it. There's no Square games on there, and every region has a Square game on the SNES Mini.
Ah, okay. So there's still a little reason to have a SNES Mini then.
I mean, maybe for you guys, but I have all the original cartridges of these games.
You're also getting Kirby Superstar, Super Punch-Out, Breath of Fire 2 for the SNES titles. I don't have a full list, I've just got kind of like a highlights list. For the NES, Crystalis, which is an RPG, and a shooter, Journey to Silius. I've never heard of either of those two games, so I've got no idea if they're decent or not.
I have no idea.
I didn't play them.
It's probably going to be a while before you get any others. It's not a huge update, but it is kind of like a little bit more incentive to get that Switch Online thing if you don't already have it. And especially for Star Fox 2, which is, like I said, previously exclusive to the SNES Mini, so if you wanted to play that game but didn't want to pick up that console, then this is a good time to pick that up and give it a go.
I will say Star Fox 2 is pretty good.
I've not
Star
played
Fox
too much
2
of
is
it.
pretty weird.
I would actually like to cover it one day on this.
I've not played too much of it. I think I've done about 15 minutes just to kind of like have a little look at it, but I've not put any significant time into it. But yeah, I'm sure that's one that we can talk about at length at some point. The next news topic, the Mega Man Zero and ZX Legacy Collection, which we spoke about, I believe a couple months ago, has had a trailer released.
Oh yeah, it's out next month. I think it's middle of the month or start next month or something.
I need it so bad.
Out towards the end of Feb.
I thought it was January.
Maybe it's been updated. I mean, the news story I'm looking at says Feb.
It was delayed.
Ah, okay. I originally heard that it was like January or something. Didn't realise it got delayed. Oh well.
But yeah, that's going to have 6 Mega Man games, 0, 1 to 4, ZX, and ZX Advent. And I couldn't give a shit about any of them, but I'm sure you guys are probably quite into this collection.
I'll be interested in playing them, because I like Mega Man.
I absolutely adore the Mega Man Zero series. I can gush about it. It's so good. But I haven't played ZX, so this will be my opportunity. I mean, those games are like $40 a piece now.
How do they play
Yeah.
it? I presume they're like Mega Man X games?
They're kind of like Mega Man, except also it's a little bit faster paced because you basically always have your sword on tap if you're smart. So it's kind of like a blend between Mega Man and a 2D hack and slash.
So playing as Zero.
Yeah, you're playing as Zero, except it's faster than the Zero games, or like when Zero showed up before.
Okay.
It's basically that, except smoothed out.
I've played the first little bit of the first Zero game a couple of times. Never gotten around to finishing it. I mean, I do have the collection on the DS, so eventually I'll get around to it, but this is just more incentive to check them out. I've never played the ZX games.
Yeah, I've wanted to for years, and it's just like, yeah, they're $40 a piece for a DS game. It's like, I don't think so.
There's only a couple of DS games I'd pay that much for.
Hopefully they do it with more of the Mega Man games, like, what's it called? Like Mega Man 64?
Oh, yeah, 64, and we gotta
Legends?
get
Legends.
because there's Legends 1 and 2, and then Misadventures of Bon Bon, or Bontron.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a spin-off, so they've got 3 to put on there, so I think that would be a decent collection.
Well, there's more than 3. They also have the Power Fighters and Power Battles, which are pretty fun, and then there's Mega Man Soccer, who could forget?
No, I mean, like in Legends, there's 3 games, so that'd make a collection in itself, like a Legends collection. Then you can have like a spin-off collection with the Legends and stuff like that, or an arcade collection or something.
Yeah, but you'd have to go and, if it was for the Switch, they'd have to download Mega Man Legends 2 for some reason.
Because Capcom.
Well, I can say, even though I'm not like majorly into the games, I do have a couple of the Legacy collections, and the ports are fantastic. So you know that you're going to be getting like a decent collection with these.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they play super duper well. They're not messing around on them.
Capcom has not been fucking up a lot lately.
You sound slightly disappointed.
Aside from
I'm
like
surprised.
pricing and not like including all the games on the physical version, they've kind of been all right. They've just been doing stupid stuff rather than bad stuff.
Yeah, I don't think they've had like a major fuck up since the last Street Fighter game.
Well, and honestly, the biggest fuck up on the DLC, like the download, the second half, was that the fucking cartridge says, or the packaging has a big red band on it over the box art that's like, you have to download the other game. It's like, why would you put that on the front cover art?
That's on all games that are like that, I think. Like, I think Call of Juarez, the new one, or the new port, has got that on as well. So I think that's maybe just what they have to do to make it clear. So it might be a standard thing. It's just that you see on Capcom releases so much because they always do it.
I'm hoping Square had the decency to put 10-2 on cartridge on Switch, like, because they didn't do that for the Vita.
I'm waiting for a game to be so big and a developer to be so insistent that it doesn't have to be downloaded that we get a 2-cartridge game. I want to return to that. I want someone to go like, yeah, we had to have 2 physical medias in here, sorry.
I think they'll just release the 64 gigabyte one, so it'd have to be pretty big.
Oh, okay. I guess you're right.
I mean, I feel like the last time we had multiple discs was the 360. Because I think Blu-rays just changed all that to where they can hold, ridiculous amounts of data.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But either way, however this collection comes out, if it is up to the standards of the previous collections, then, it is worth picking up if you're a fan of that series, and it will be out in approximately 2 months, just under 2 months. And you can check out the trailer on YouTube now.
So I'll push a link out to that onto the Retro Odyssey Facebook page, and probably the Twitter too, which we have a Twitter, guys.
Yeah, check those out. We have Twitter, Facebook, Discord. So yeah, check us out on all those followers if you want to join in the Retro Odyssey discussion. Okay, so the next news topic. Do you remember the C64 Mini that came out a while ago?
Vaguely.
It's kind of like a miniature Commodore 64 with 64 games on it. Basically one of those plug-and-play systems similar to the NES Mini, SNES Mini, stuff like that.
I recall it having a big trailer, and then it released with little to no fanfare.
Yeah, it had quite a few issues, and it did kind of like receive middling reviews, but they kind of took a lot of that on board, and they've just released one that's just called the C64. This is actually a full-size recreation of the original Commodore 64, and it has a fully working keyboard. It's got 3 USBs. You can actually easily load your own games onto USB and plug it into the side and play those. So you can play the games either via the keyboard or the joystick, which is included. It's the same kind of joystick that they had in the Mini. And again, you've got 64 games. A few of them have been switched out. This can also play VIC-20 games as well. This is something that I'm really actually interested in picking up, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. That's actually really cool.
I believe it's not 100% a one-to-one recreation. I believe it is actually using a replica of the VIC-20 case rather than the C64 case, which is a tiny bit bigger. But it is essentially a full Commodore 64. And with the ability to put your own games on it, load stuff instantly. Even though I have a Commodore 64, I mean, I've got 2 actually. The C64 is something that I will probably at some point pick up. It's only just come out, and at the moment it's sold out everywhere. So you're looking at like expensive prices on the second-hand market in a minute. But it will be coming back in stock soon, apparently. So if you're after one of these, then give it a little time, maybe give it a month or so. Wait for everyone to get back in stock, and those prices are going to drop down. And it does look like a solid piece of kit. This
is kind of looking like the tech version of the Sonic model from the Sonic movie. They released
the old one or the new one?
The new one. They released the C64 Mini, and it was like, everybody's like, And now they released a good one, and they're like, "Yeah, we love it. You did right by us." After we, dropped $60 on the old one.
And you can boot it straight into BASIC as well if you want.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it can function exactly like a normal Commodore 64.
But does it have a floppy drive?
No, but you can use a USB, and I'm assuming that will kind of like emulate one. I am curious, actually, if you can hook up a tape drive, though. Probably not. I mean, I've watched a couple video reviews of this. No one has mentioned being able to hook up a tape drive. But you can get the ROMs and just stick them on a USB. But it would have been nice to kind of like be able to put a tape drive in there and load games from tape.
Just for maximum nostalgia.
Yeah. Like I say, it's just come out, and definitely something that I'm looking to pick up.
That is pretty neato burrito.
I have another news story that's literally just come in like 10 minutes ago.
Oh.
Hot off the presses. Capcom have announced a triple pack of the Devil May Cry trilogy for the Switch.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yes, so you get Devil May Cry 1, theoretically, and then 2 and 3 are downloads because as you were saying before, Capcom.
We literally just talked about this.
We've literally just said it, and they've announced basically the exact same thing again. So you're downloading 2 and 3, and you're getting 1 physically.
You know what? It was only a couple of weeks ago that I was looking and thinking I would like to get that. So I'm definitely going to pick this up on Switch. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a shame you don't get all 3 of them. I'm definitely going to pick up all 3 games at some point, like during various sales. But I don't have any at the moment.
I'm probably going to get the HD collection they did for Xbox One and just get like the whole series on Xbox One.
I've only ever played Devil May Cry 4, so it'll be interesting playing the original trilogy.
I have the first 3 on PS2, but yeah, I did want the HD versions. This looks like a decent time to pick them up. Does it have a release date?
I don't think so. At the moment, it's only announced for Japan, with the English version or the Western version coming soon. So even if it had a release date, which I don't remember, that's just for the Japanese one, so soon.
Well, I don't mind waiting. I'm not in like a major rush for it. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Very clean. And nice to see. Those games are legendary. I don't know if they straight up deserve it, but they are legendary.
I believe we talked about the inception of the series when we talked about Resident Evil 4, because that was going to be Resident Evil 4, Devil May Cry, and obviously they decided to go in a different direction with it, so they just reskinned it, turned it into Devil May Cry. But yeah, that's another thing that's going to drain my wallet. So, well done Capcom again.
Good my money.
I've had a look at the article again, and you can pre-order it, but there's no date in the article, so I don't know whether it's just like one of those pre-orders where there's no release date yet. No idea.
I mean, if it's only just been announced, I doubt that it's up on selling sites yet. Let me just have a quick look. No, a search is just bringing up the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions. So, not yet, but I'm sure probably by the time this is out, there will be pre-order links everywhere. Okay, so the last news topic that we've got is another pretty recent one, actually. It came out a few days ago. A long-lost Akira prototype for the Sega Mega Drive was released. This was originally going to come out back in 93, 94, somewhere around there. And they ended up deciding to cancel it for whatever reason. But a ROM of it has leaked, and there is currently like an hour-long video on YouTube of someone playing through it. Now, it isn't finished. None of the levels actually have sound effects. A lot of them don't have music, and a few of them don't have enemies as well, or any kind of collision detection. But it does look like it was going to be really ambitious. I mean, it actually looks beautiful. Like the sprite work, the backgrounds, everything looks really, really nice. And you kind of start off, you've got a racing section, you've got a side-scrolling section, you've got a shooter section, you've got an isometric section, a first-person section. It really, really did look ambitious. It is a real shame that this didn't actually come out, because it looks like it would have been really decent. And Akira is like one of my favorite anime films as well.
Oh, I can argue with that, but this is a video game podcast, not an anime podcast.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's my favorite anime, but it is up there. And especially for its time, the impact and influence that it had, can't really deny that.
Fair enough.
Really, really does look like it would have been decent. Okay, so does anyone else have any other news segments before we move on?
I don't really have news, but we do have a couple anniversaries for some famous games for December. Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse turned 30 this month. Much better than the second game. Obviously, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon was inspired very heavily by it.
As was the Netflix Castlevania series.
Yes. So that turned 30. Shenmue, the cult classic, turned 20 this month. Some people don't care. Some people are obsessed with that game. I think it's notable. And we covered it before. Marathon turned 25.
Oh, nice. I did quite enjoy Marathon.
As do I. So that's a couple games. They're getting up there in age.
It's about time we actually had like a new release for that. I mean, I know you've got the free ones on the website, but it would be nice to like get one with a little bit of a new lick of paint.
I really feel like Bungie could just be like, we're going to stop making Destiny and we're going to make a new Marathon, or we're going to remaster Marathon.
I mean, I like Destiny, so...
I like Marathon better. Oh, and Legend of Dragoon has turned 20.
Hell yeah. Boy, I cannot wait till we cover that.
So, well, get cracking, I suppose. That's about all I can find that matters. Our games are getting old, people.
Yep, so are we.
They're getting so old.
Okay, so that is the end of the news. Now it's time to move on to our main segment and have a look at what Christmas presents we got for each other this year.
Hey, Kate, for the glory! You came for the glory!
Okay, so as I said before, we have 4 games this month. We've each picked something that we wanted to share with the other 3. Something that we enjoy as kind of like a little Christmas present. So we're going to start with my pick, and it is actually a Spectrum game. We should cover more Spectrum games on this podcast, definitely, because I love the Spectrum. This is one of my absolute favorite, probably in my top 5 favorite Spectrum games, and that is RoboCop, which was originally an arcade game. Now, I've not actually played the arcade game, but I played the Spectrum game a hell of a lot when I was a kid, and it really is a fantastic little game. It's short, you can finish it in under half an hour, but it really is kind of like really, really solid port. I mean, the arcade game may be kind of like miles ahead of it. Maybe it is. But this is really, really, in my opinion, a really enjoyable kind of like run and gun, beat 'em up kind of thing. And it scored like a really, really high in all of the major Spectrum magazines at the time. And the music in it as well. The theme music for this is probably some of the best music on the Spectrum.
No, I will admit that it is, like, immediately it was pretty damn good as it's loading in. It's like I was not anticipating that, because we've played Spectrum games that just didn't have music. It was either sound effects or music.
The official Father Christmas game?
Yeah.
Saying that this is the best music on the Spectrum probably isn't saying a great deal.
Well, it is still really, really solid, I think. It's kind of like, if you know the limits of the Spectrum sound chip and you kind of like grew up with it and you know what the Spectrum can do, listening to that theme tune is like, this is like really, really solid. Someone talented worked on this, you know? It has speech as well, which the Spectrum did have kind of like a speech peripheral that could like emulate speech, But this game didn't actually need it. This was able to do it using the Spectrum sound chip. As well as like sounding great, I think the gameplay is really good as well. What do you guys actually think about the game?
I liked it. It was moved very slowly. Like, I wouldn't say the game is paced. The game is just slow. You just trudge along doing, upholding the law, as, they say right in the beginning, which is apparently just blowing people away because it is RoboCop after all.
I'm not entirely sure if the pace is kind of like deliberate, because RoboCop isn't a very like fast-moving guy in the films.
Right, he's just sort of an unstoppable force.
That's true. But I also think that you kind of have to make some changes in terms of gameplay. Like, for me, one of the issues I have with mech games is that they try and make these big, cumbersome, mechs. And I find that how they trudging along really slowly is very cumbersome and a little bit like, come on.
Yeah, if we're playing a mech game, we want Gundam, not Big O.
Exactly. You want the game flows a little bit better, because otherwise you just get a bit pissed off with it, or at least I do. And I do kind of get the slowness of RoboCop. I think it's a fun game, and I did enjoy my time with it, but I also agree with Ryan that it does feel a little too slow. I think putting a little bit of extra briskness probably would have helped the game a little bit, just in terms of the general flow.
I'm not sure if some of that might be down to the limitations of the Spectrum as well. I mean, like I said, I've not played the arcade game, so I don't know if that does run a bit faster. For the Spectrum, I mean, it does run at that pace, but there are quite a lot of enemy sprites, and there are quite a lot of large sprites as well, which maybe if it did run a bit faster would cause some issues on the Spectrum.
That's true. Even though I thought the general side-to-side shooting stuff felt a bit slow, I did quite like the little mini-game thing where you got to shoot the bad guy who's hiding behind the woman. I thought those bits were really cool. I know it was like basically one scene in the film, but, reimagining that in the game is kind of neat.
I am really, really bad at those sections. The amount of hostages that I've shot in the face in that section.
They know what they did.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I was quite bad at them too, but for me, those were the funniest parts of the game. Because it just didn't feel like just a side-to-side action platformer that was a bit sluggish. Those bits were quite interesting in how they implemented them, so I like those bits a lot.
What did you think of the other minigame, the photo fit minigame?
I failed it the first time.
Yeah, I'm not overly fond of it. That was probably the least enjoyable part for me.
Yeah, it's not particularly interesting stage, that, the photo fit bit.
I mostly didn't realize what I was doing at first.
At least it is short, that section.
Yeah. I'm going to bring this up now just because I feel like it's something that we need to address with Spectrum games at some point. What do you guys think of the fucking colour scheme? All Spectrum games seem to be like this, where you go from like bright pink to bright yellow to bright green.
To grayscale.
To grey.
Yeah, just a flat black and white. I did mention that because I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. This level, it's just black and white. It's just a black and white game. They're not going to, all of your, your health and stuff is all lit up.
And there's like bam yellow.
And then it's like suddenly everything's kind of blue. It's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of Spectrum games seem to do that. They have those colours built in, and some of them mix and match. Like in this, the HUD was a kind of mixture, but then the actual game was pretty much all grey, all yellow, all blue, which was not like a very uncommon thing for Spectrum games, because I've seen quite a few that have been predominantly one colour and then just changed to another. What do you guys think about that? For me, it's not a colour thing I appreciate, to be honest. I find it quite garish.
It hurts the eyes a little bit, I'm not going to lie.
I mean, I won't say I played early computer games because I didn't, but I played computer games when consoles were just starting out. So I remember, like, this color problem was a thing on PC too. So I'm kind of used to it.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just a thing that I never grew up with that kind of colour scheme. Like, my first game was Zool on the Amiga, and obviously that's just proper colours. So I never really experienced those kind of single colour palettes, shall we say.
I'm going to call you out a little bit there and say do you honestly think that a ZX Spectrum game isn't as abusive to the eyes as the Chupa Chups level of Zool?
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, that looks like stuff. It's actually, it might be quite bright colours, but things are coloured. Rather than this, where it's just like, hey, everything's pink. But I say maybe it's just, an old thing that I'm not used to, but every time I play a Spectrum game, the colours always throw me off.
I can tell you, the people that started out playing text adventures on PC would look at a game like this and go, oh my god, it has pictures.
What is going on here?
Yeah, it's true.
I remember playing this as a kid and thinking that the graphics were fantastic.
No, that's the other thing. Like, we've played a couple ZX Spectrum games, and this is on... Did this come out, like, really late in its life? Because...
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
This came out in 1989.
Because not only are the graphics is the audio very crisp, everything about it is very clean, but they actually have, like, actual speech in there, and it's surprisingly clear.
The speech was definitely very rare for the Spectrum.
I did get a giggle every single time when you got a transition and went, RoboCop! It's like, I don't know why you're saying that, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that in terms of Spectrum games, this definitely was the best looking. I mean, like, Saboteur is quite a nice looking game, but this is, like, next level. So they did well.
If you put it up against, like, the C64 version, for example, it's like you do kind of like have a trade-off. I mean, you were talking about like with the color palette of the Spectrum. You kind of have a trade-off with Spectrum versus C64 in that the C64 tends to have more colors in its games, but graphically it isn't as sharp or detailed. So you do lose a lot of that color in the Spectrum, but they do tend to be better looking from like a design standpoint.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. It does look pretty good. I'm just looking at the Commodore 64 version, and I think the Commodore 64 version does look better. You've definitely got all the colours and it looks more realistic. But then if you look at the details on RoboCop, there's probably less detail overall.
Yeah.
Well, that and the problem with the C64, when they're trying to put in all that color and get everything smoothed out and lighten up, it just sort of muddies everything. I would say that the C64 version is better looking, but at the same time, it's kind of just smeared together. It's not nearly as sharp. It does hurt to look at as well.
It doesn't sound anywhere near as good as well.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But at the end of the day, there are always going to be limitations, and I think this really does kind of push the Spectrum to some of like the best stuff it can do.
No doubt.
And there were definitely some companies where you could see a company's name on a box and think that is going to be a quality title. The company that put this out is a company called Ocean, and they did quite a lot of licensed games. And you always kind of knew when buying an Ocean game that it was going to be of like a certain quality. There were one or two misses here and there, but for the most part, they really, really pulled through. I mean, another one of my favourite games for the Spectrum is Batman the Movie, which was also by Ocean. And there's a really interesting history behind the studio as well. If you want to kind of like read up all about that or hear up all about that, then Kim Justice's YouTube channel, she has a really in-depth video about Ocean and their rise and fall. It's a really, really interesting watch if you want to find out more about the company.
Might take a peek at that.
But would we all give a thumbs up to RoboCop?
Honestly, because of the games we've played before, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's anything special. I won't put it in my top games or anything, but it's just a fun little experience, and yeah, it's a solid title. If you've got a Spectrum, I'd recommend it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and especially since this is something you can just romp through in 30 minutes. You can just
Yeah.
stomp right through it,
They say it's a lot better than the last Spectrum game we played.
which was which one was
was
it?
Father
Oh,
Christmas, wasn't
yeah,
it?
Father
Oh,
Christmas.
yeah.
I keep going back a little bit farther to Horus.
I tell you who wouldn't be able to give this game a thumbs up, and that's RoboCop himself, because he shot his fucking hand off. Like, it is one of the most graphically violent mainstream films of the 80s, that film.
But it's great.
Yeah, it is. Same guy who directed Showgirls as well.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
Paul Verhoeven, isn't it?
Yeah.
He also did Starship Troopers.
Yep, Starship Troopers, Basic Instinct.
Wow. Okay. So it's his fault.
So it looks like all of us, except for RoboCop himself, gives us a big thumbs up for this one.
I approve.
Okay, so if that is as done on RoboCop, then we will move on to the next game.
What the glory! He came by joy and kingdom!
Okay, so next up is my game. If you can remember to when we did Guilty Pleasures, I think it was, I gave you Super Monkey Ball Adventure. And I don't think that sat well with most of you.
Understatement.
Yeah, I think it was a game where it turned out that it was my guilty pleasure and nobody else's. So I wanted to make things up to you. I put forward the original Super Monkey Ball, which is a very different beast. It's actually made by a different company. It's still published by Sega, but it's made by Amusement Vision, who made the first two Monkey Ball games before they kind of disappeared. They made the two Monkey Ball games, and they made F-Zero GX out of interest. And then I think that's all they did. Anyway, Super Monkey Ball is like the console version of the arcade game Monkey Ball, which I believe is still the only arcade machine to be controlled by a banana. So,
Really?
yeah, the stick is a banana. Not an actual one. I imagine it's like a plastic or metal one.
Firmly
But
grip the banana.
Yeah, but you control the banana.
Firmly grasp it.
You have to grab the banana and push your monkey around.
I don't like where this conversation's going at all.
Yeah. Grab the banana and watch the balls fly. Yeah, I mean, because it's based on an arcade game, you'd obviously imagine it's a very arcade-like experience, and it is. I mean, if you've ever played Marble Madness on the Mega Drive or any of the other various versions of Marble Madness, it's sort of like that. It's basically the whole marble in a maze type thing. Apart from this is a bit more true to Marble in a Maze, because you don't control the ball, you control the maze. So as you push forward, you're actually tilting the stage forward, and you're making the monkey roll in that direction. It's quite weird, because you expect to control the ball, so the physics aren't quite what you'd expect, and the monkey doesn't control... You think the monkey is not controlling very tight, but the fact is it's just based on momentum, because you're controlling the entire level.
Right.
I thought I was actually controlling the ball. It felt like I was controlling the ball.
No, if you look at the level, you'll see that the level's tilting. The monkey moves his little legs, but that's just because he's moving with the momentum. You're actually just tilting the stage. That's why the physics can be quite difficult to get to grips with, because once you kind of grasp that you're moving the stage and how the momentum works because of that, the game gets a lot easier.
I might have had a slightly better time if I'd noticed that, actually.
Well, yeah, and if you notice when you pick up speed, like the monkey stops running with the ball, he just starts spinning with it.
Yeah. So next time you boot it up, have a look at the stage and you'll see what I mean. And it should make it a little bit easier as well. So how it works is that there are three difficulty modes. There's easy, normal, and expert. and you have to beat a series of levels by making your way to the goal in each stage. Some of these are timed to 30 seconds, some are 60 seconds, or some even less, I believe. And once you've beaten them all, you win. If you beat them all without dying for beginner mode, you unlock the special stages. Or if you do it without continuing in expert mode, you get the special stages for that one. Normal mode, advanced, I don't remember. I think it's doing them all without dying again, but I don't remember. Might be continuing. So there are like 10 levels in beginner. I think it's 13 normal and 15 expert. And then you've got some special stages if you manage to beat it within those requirements. And then in addition to that, there are a bunch of different mini games you can play. There's Monkey Target, where you have to fly and then land on a target. And then there's other mini games that nobody bothers playing. So I won't mention them. Everyone just plays Monkey Target because that's the best one. So, what did you think?
I felt this was a much better experience than Monkey Ball Adventure. And the stage tilting around felt better because it was like having the tilting stage felt horribly disorienting in Adventure because the whole world was moving. Versus when you're on this, it's very clear that it's a platform as opposed to just insanity. Just, the mountain flipped to the side so you can go up the mountain now, which is why I turned it off. But that made it feel really bad because rolling the ball around like that just felt weird.
Yeah, Adventure, because it was a different developer, they changed the physics around and stuff is just like a little off, so it controls a bit odd. And the game's kind of buggy as hell. Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2 are definitely tighter experiences, and once you get to grips with how it controls, everything just kind of fits into place and everything works as it should, for the most part.
It definitely felt better to control the ball in this.
Yeah, so I didn't get very far. I just got to the product placement level and then couldn't get past it, but this was so much better than Adventure.
The product placement level is one of the special stages, isn't it?
It was the one that was a square that kept expanding and contracting, made up of little squares.
Oh, that took me such a long time.
Yeah.
Is that on beginner or advanced?
Beginner.
Okay, because I think beginner, advanced, and expert all have a variant on that.
Yeah, so I got to that and could not advance at all. Like, I got a bunch of game overs there. I'm like, nope, I'm done.
Well, that's another thing as well because you're controlling the direction of the world, you have to kind of sort of balance yourself. So you're pressing forward and moving back because you're trying to keep your momentum so you're not moving. It's not that if you don't press anything, you stay still. If the world's tilting in a certain way, then you have to kind of make things move to, keep your guy on track so he doesn't roll off.
That was level 9 on beginner, and I managed to do that, but level 10 on beginner I couldn't do. That's as far as I got.
Level 10, I think it's got a quite tight time limit if you go slowly, but as soon as you're kind of a bit more confident with the turns and everything, it's not so bad.
I mean, I did discover a skip where I was able to, if I timed a jump just right, I was able to skip out kind of like half the level, but I still couldn't beat it in the time limit.
One of those things where, especially with that level, you kind of have to get a bit more confident with your general movement because it's quite a long level for the time limit, especially for a beginner. But once you get used to it and you're a bit more confident, it's not so bad. But it's funny you should mention skips because Super Monkey Ball is like one of the most popular speedrunning games because of that. There are loads of ways that you can skip the different levels, and you can do like loads of crazy stuff. Like especially on some of the more difficult levels, you can just go fast, get momentum, and just bounce off things.
Yeah, I've watched some speedruns for the Monkey Ball games, and they're just fucking dumb.
Yeah, it's cool because like you can actually select individual levels as well. So once you've unlocked them, you can actually just replay that level over and over and just kind of do it and try it yourself. And most of them aren't that difficult to pull off. They may take you a few times, so it's difficult to do all of them in one single run. But if you were to try them yourself, to repeat like maybe a dozen times or so, and you'd get it. And they're really fulfilling to do when you pull off a stupid skip.
I definitely enjoy the concept of the game. Even though I couldn't really get to grips with the controls and stuff like that, the idea of it is really, really interesting to me. Like, just rolling around a maze and bouncing off stuff, doing tight corners, stuff like that. I can definitely see the appeal of it, even though I couldn't really get to grips with it myself.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a launch title for the GameCube as well, so if you can imagine, there was, like this, Super Monkey Ball, and Rogue Leader. 3 great games, but, like Rogue Leader and Luigi's Mansion aren't particularly long games, so this is one that you could invest more time into, learn the mechanics and learn how it works and, kind of master it, really. So I think it works kind of well as a launch game for when, the game library was so small at the time.
I mean, Rogue Leader may be short if you're good at games.
But, I mean, suppose Rogue Leader as well, you've got the gold medals and stuff, so again, that's got a lot of replayability.
But it was always like weird replayability, because you can just slam through Super Monkey Ball, you can just slam through Rogue Leader and just kind of half-ass all the levels, and you cannot opt to get as much money as you want in Luigi's Mansion. Feels like they're almost going through like an experimental phase.
Well, you can't really slam through Super Monkey Ball. You can with some of the levels, but you really have to kind of get good in order to get the extra modes, or even make it through Expert. Like it does.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to go through Expert, yeah, but if you just want to just plunk through like Intermediate or just Beginner or something like that, it's like, oh yeah, I played Super Monkey Ball, but it's like, no, there's so many courses if you want to 100% it.
Yeah, it's definitely got like a lot there. There's enough to keep you going and keep you interested, but the better you become, the more you unlock and the more you can do. Because it's like, okay, I'm not good enough to get far in Expert, but I'm good enough to maybe unlock Advanced Extra. And then you can work on doing that as your next goal. And then once you've done that, it's like, right, okay, now I'm good enough to take on Expert. And then finally you can unlock the Master Mode, which I've never actually even done, because it's really fucking difficult to do. You have to beat all the Expert levels and the Expert Extra levels without using a continue, which is insane. Because there's like 60 ridiculously hard levels you've got to do without losing more than like a handful of lives. Did anyone try any of the minigames?
I did not.
No, I didn't, because you can only unlock them when you've done those 10 levels, which I wasn't able to do.
Oh, that's a shame. Because I say, like, Monkey Target in particular is a really fun one, because in that one you actually do control the monkey, and you roll down a ramp, and you fly with your ball open like it's a pair of wings, and you have to land on a target. And the closer you are to the centre, you get more points. And it's a multiplayer game, so you take turns, you go for high points, and whoever has the highest points wins. Then after the first go, there's like a roulette, and it puts like different hazards, like extra wind or like mines floating in the air you need to avoid. And it's really cool. You should look at a video of that. It's a really fun game mode.
Fair enough.
What I would have really liked to have seen in this game, actually, is kind of like a large open area kind of thing, where you can just play around with the physics and mechanics, like a bunch of hills and like obstacles. Maybe kind of like none of the death drops or anything like that. Just a big area that you can just bounce around in without worrying about falling off or anything like that.
A free roam.
I mean, in fairness, the game is, like I say, part of an arcade game, so it's designed to be, a money muncher.
Yeah.
So it's kind of got that, you just get better at it to get further.
So what you're saying is you want Super Monkey Ball Adventure, but not bad.
Yeah. I mean, I still think Super Monkey Ball Adventure would be good as, like, a game to remake, but not broken.
Or what we really need is Super Monkey Ball Maker.
Well, they sort of had a level creator in the PSP game, but it was weird. and didn't really work properly.
That sounds about right.
It was like more of a level generator than a level creator. But yeah, Super Monkey Ball Creator would be like very good. Because
So
they could make that and let people do the hard work. Just get the physics right, get the creator right, and let everyone else do the hard work for you.
all I really heard you say there was that there are a bunch of people who have Super Monkey Ball games that are generated off of pictures of their own willies, so...
Probably, to be honest.
Somebody's like,
I can imagine.
I gotta try this. Click.
I knew where you were going about halfway through that sentence. Because I was thinking the same thing.
Well, to be fair, if they did that, then it's probably going to end up being a short level, so... But yeah, you can see how this game anyway is much tighter and more of a better experience than Super Monkey Ball Adventure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was kind of debating whether to do this or Super Monkey Ball 2, because like Super Monkey Ball 2, you've got infinite lives, and you just work your way through the story. But then there's a lot more tech to it, so it's a bit more complicated and a bit more difficult than this game, but you do get infinite tries at every level. So I did actually have the second Monkey Ball on my list for the longest time, and then I decided to change it for the original experience to see how you got on with that.
This is a much more enjoyable game. That's all I can really say. Is it's everything that Monkey Ball Adventure should have had, except it's Monkey Ball Adventure, except it's a good game. That's what this is. It took away all the fluff and questing, and is just like, get to the goal, do the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to put more time into Adventure, and I greatly preferred this one.
And it's like, well, and that's the thing is, when we were playing Adventure, there's the areas where you unlock like the classic stages, and that was the best part of Adventure, was the classic stages.
Because that was what Monkey Ball originally was those
and that's what it was supposed to be anyway. And then you do those, and then you leave, and you're like, oh, back to this horrible game.
So yeah, anyway, just looking, Amusement Vision, they did the Monkey Ball games, the two Monkey Ball games, the original ones. They did the Daytona USA remake. They did F-Zero GX, and then they just dissolved into Sega at that point.
And it all went downhill from there.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's what they get for making an F-Zero game.
By the way, I don't know if you noticed the sponsor of the Monkey Ball games. I don't know if they got you with the subtle marketing.
I missed it.
Dole Bananas.
Oh, is that
Didn't
actually a
Coca-Cola
brand?
show up too?
Like every banana has the Dole symbol sticker on it.
Oh, shit, you're right.
Yeah, and there's like Dole Bananas like everywhere, and they make a really big deal of it.
I just thought that was just like a generic thing.
No, Dole Bananas is an actual,
Yeah,
that's bananas.
it must be more common over here, but yeah, that's an actual banana company. Didn't Coca-Cola show up in a couple of stages?
I don't think so.
Oh.
Maybe it did, but I don't remember. It wouldn't surprise me.
This actually kind of has me wanting to snag Super
Eat
Monkey
banana.
Ball up on the Switch.
Yeah, there is a Super Monkey Ball game on the Switch. It's decent. It's the Wii game, and it's just been ported so you don't use the Wii remote to have motion controls, and it uses a normal controller. It's decent. It's not quite the same. I'd wait till the sale, but it's enjoyable. Like, some of the later levels can get a bit annoying because they get a bit obnoxious with it. But, like, for the most part, like, the first 8 worlds at least are pretty good. And then, like, later on when it gets to the, like, real later stages, it can get a bit obnoxious in places. Like, I've not even beaten it yet. I'm on the 10th world and there's one stage which I just can't do. But it's a decent enough game. It's fine.
It's fine. No, I liked it. I like it.
The problem is that the GameCube controller really helps because you've got like the little notches for the directions you control.
Oh, the octagonal
Right.
game?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it makes controlling the monkey a lot easier using that.
I wonder if that was why I struggled, because I was using Dolphin in my Xbox One controller.
Could be. Because, like, I played on the Switch with the Switch game, and there was a point in the game, like, I can't remember what it was. It was like the Lava World or something. And I just couldn't do this platform bit. There was like a thin ledge you have to go around, and it was just impossible. So I got my USB adapter for my GameCube controller, plugged that in, and it was like, oh, I can actually control it like a proper game now. And then after that, I just flew through most of the levels.
Well, I did use the GameCube controller on, like, the original GameCube, and I still struggled with it. But I am shit at games, so...
Well, just be thankful you were using a GameCube controller then and not another one. Otherwise, you might not have got that far.
But it's one that I'm probably going to keep. I mean, well, I can't really sell it because the disc is, like, so scratched up that I didn't even think it was going to work. But I did eventually manage to get it working, and yeah, I might go back to it.
Yeah, I'd recommend just going back to it and just seeing how well you do. At the very least, you should be able to get beginner extra and then maybe like halfway through advanced.
Yeah.
Alright, cool. So I think we'll take a break and go to the next game then.
My gift to the three of you was also kind of a gift to myself that I knew that at least one of you would not appreciate. And that game is Chrono Trigger, specifically the original release on the Super Nintendo.
Out of interest, who do you think wouldn't appreciate?
You.
You may be correct.
So, I've established this in the past, I love Square's games. I love especially their output in the 90s. I think Chrono Trigger is one of the best games they've ever made. And it's interesting because when you look at Chrono Trigger, there are elements that weren't used for Secret of Mana and elements that weren't used for Final Fantasy that were incorporated into this. So this is like taking elements of all of their work. You know, they have Hironobu Sakaguchi is on it. One of the creators of Dragon Quest worked on this. Akira Toriyama did work for this. You know, Nobuo Uematsu did some of the music. Like, it's actually been called a dream team of the designers of this game because they took some of the best elements they had access to and made this game. I mean, it's widely regarded as one of the best games on the system by a lot of outlets.
Well, beyond that, it's considered one of the best RPGs of all time.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely one of my favorite RPGs, particularly because if the title doesn't give it away, the game is about time travel, and that's not a spoiler because it comes up within the first 30 minutes?
Yeah, about 30 minutes.
Yeah, less if you run straight to it. You know, the game is about time travel, and that kind of science-y stuff has always been an interest of mine, so to have a whole game based around it started out having my interest, and then when I played the game, it just got so much better. So one of the things that sets Chrono Trigger apart from, say, Final Fantasy and a lot of the other RPGs of the time is you don't have random encounters. You see all the enemies on the overworld, and when you approach them, you don't have like a screen transition. You just take positions and the fight starts. So it's still a battle system, but it, again, kind of bridges that gap between the Mana series and the Final Fantasy series. And then led into the creation of Parasite Eve's combat system. The difference being in Parasite Eve, you can actively move, in this one you can't. But, all your characters have special abilities that you can then combine with other characters' abilities to do special attacks. There's a lot of geometry in it where sometimes you deal damage to enemies that are clustered. Sometimes you do damage on a line. It's very innovative, especially for the time. And there were elements of Final Fantasy IV that went into the combat system. Elements of what was going to be Final Fantasy IV that went into the combat system. until they decided to make Final Fantasy IV just another Final Fantasy, albeit a very good one. What did you guys think? I know Adam wasn't super fond of it, and I know Ryan has actually mentioned Chrono Trigger in the past. So what did you guys think?
I did enjoy it to an extent. I mean, I thought the story was quite interesting. I wouldn't say it particularly grabbed me, the story, but it was interesting enough. The gameplay as well was fine. The thing that kind of put me off was the complexity of the battle system. I couldn't really get my head around like the line system, and as you said, you know, you can deal damage in like certain different ways in certain different configurations, and that's something that I couldn't really get my head around that much. I initially had it on the real-time active battle system, which I eventually switched off and moved it to turn-based because I was panicking during the fights and I was getting like my ass handed to me. And it was a little bit better with the turn-based system, but I still personally found it a bit overcomplicated. And I mean, there's one particular section, you know, when you're going from the village to the castle. Now, you did mention that there's kind of like no randomized encounters, and whenever you go in a certain direction, you're going to have the same enemies each time. There are like two sets of enemies in that path between the village and the castle, and I got so sick of seeing those two because you make that trek quite a lot, at least at the early part of the game, and you're just seeing those two same groups of enemies over and over. I was actually wishing for a random battle system at that point.
Some of that may come down to, you know, my having experience and knowing how to minimize the trips back and forth. That doesn't come into play as much for me anymore. But I definitely see how, you know, for a first-time player that's exploring, you're going to run into that a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, random battle systems are quite annoying, but, you know, when it's your first time playing and you kind of have to explore to find out where you're going, it's like, oh, I'm back to this place again. Now I'm going to go through the same battle again with the same enemy. And it kind of drags you down. And honestly, I didn't find the battle system particularly fun. I mean, it's better than some JRPGs, but it didn't really grab me. It was just fine, I guess. And yeah, I mean, in terms of like the story again, it didn't really grab me either. So it was just kind of like, okay, I'm just going through this rigmarole. And whilst there are some JRPGs that do kind of turn my opinion round, where I think, okay, this is actually a pretty good game, I kind of just go through the same kind of feelings with Chrono Trigger, to be honest. I think the story is just kind of over-convoluted. You've got a lot of the same types of enemies. There's no random encounters, but then you've got a system that, you know, as Matt says, is kind of arguably worse, at least for the first-time player. If you know where you're going and you can minimize that, then it's better, sure. But if not, then it's kind of more irritating. So, yeah, I didn't care for this. But to be fair, I mean, I didn't really even get that far either. I mean, I played maybe like the opening segments. I played like about an hour or so of it, and I still felt like I was in the tutorial area.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, is how far did everybody get?
Yeah, I didn't get very far, so I kind of expect that once things go on and I progress, then things will start to get a bit more satisfying as you get more stuff or whatever, and you can do a bit more. But at that stage in the game, I was like, eh. But again, that's not the problem with JRPGs, is that the tutorial is longer than most games. So I played it for a while, and then I still kind of felt like I hadn't gone into the main part of the game yet.
So, what in the game did you get to?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It was a while ago when I played this, and I've played other games since. I didn't get far.
Matt, what part in the game did you get to, if you remember?
I got as far as the prison, and I think the reason that I stopped there is because the big battle that you do just before it, like at the end of the castle in the past, that kicked my ass like for a while, like for a good half an hour. And after that, I was like, I just need to kind of like not for a bit. you know.
Okay.
So I did stop it at the prison.
You actually, I don't know that you would have gotten much further because there's a big fight at the end of the prison that's actually kind of tough. But right after the prison is when you start getting the main plot of the game, and you get, like, one of the big emotional moments is in the next area you go to after the castle, or after the prison. So it takes longer than it should to get to the good, the quote-unquote good parts of the game. I have a high tolerance for that kind of thing because of the kinds of games that I play.
Another thing that wasn't really helping is that I emulated this, and I think the ROM that I had was a little bit dodgy. I kept getting kind of like slowdown and frame drops quite a lot, which made things a little bit frustrating as well.
Serves you right for being a dirty pirate. You should have bought the official SNES version of this and played it legitimately.
Yeah, for like £500 or however much you go. It's probably not £500, but
I think it's usually around 300 right now.
Yeah,
So
I paid 300 for that, and I also bought a SNES just so I could play it. I guarantee it, honestly.
why was this not on the SNES Mini? It's like, why?
Because you live in the wrong region.
Chrono Trigger's not on the SNES Mini.
I could have sworn it was...
No, Final Fantasy III is on there.
Well, because I think we've gone over this before. Oh, okay. So the ones that were regionally exclusive were also RPGs, but not Square RPGs. Earthbound was exclusive to North America, and then Mystery of the Emblem was only in Europe.
Earthbound was in Europe as well.
Was it?
My SNES Mini has Earthbound on it. Yeah, I've played it.
Okay, they must have changed that decision after this article came out then. Okay. Well, there is a Super Famicom one in Japan, so I'm not sure what that one got. But you're right, it absolutely should have been on there. But I don't know. I guess they thought Final Fantasy VI was the more important one to have.
But going back to the game, though, I mean, the story, it was kind of interesting. Like I say, it didn't like massively grab me, but it had some decent story beats in it. One thing that I particularly enjoyed was the court scene, which takes stuff that you did at the start of the game and kind of twists it, and
yes,
it makes you feel, wow, I'm actually kind of an asshole for a lot of this stuff that I did, and I didn't even realize that I was being a dick at the time. But it's interesting how a lot of those early actions play out later in the game.
That is legitimately one of my favorite things about the early game. And, like, to me, that explains the your actions have consequences thing so much better than something like Until Dawn that just says your decisions have consequences.
Right.
Oh, man, I love that part, and I was really hoping that some of you were going to get to that.
I mean, they found me not guilty. Not that it ended up mattering.
No, but...
because the counselor's a dick and sent me to prison anyway.
Yeah, so, like, the first time I played that, I, played it like a standard RPG, so I was, every single thing went against me. I was like, oh my god.
And it's like, you see some food sitting on a bench, and you think, oh, this is an RPG, that'll refill my health, sit and eat that food. And then a couple hours down the line, you're in a court saying, you stole this guy's food. Like, quite a few times. You're a bad person. That wasn't your dinner.
Yeah. It makes you think about what you're doing for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's a cool mechanic.
So, Ryan, you haven't said much. What were your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't play it this time around because I've played many hours deep in many times before and have shamefully never finished the game.
Okay.
So I didn't really need to play to have my opinion set on this game. I have stated before, I am with Adam. I do not like RPGs. There are only a handful of JRPGs that I tolerate. Unlike Adam, Chrono Trigger is one of them.
Ooh.
I very much enjoy Chrono Trigger, which is weird because I haven't finished it yet. The art style being done by Akira Toriyama. Just the style was done by him. The art wasn't. The art being done by Akira Toriyama. For those who don't know, Dragon Ball Z.
And Dragon Quest. He was the character designer for
Yes.
the Dragon Quest games.
The Dragon Quest series as well. I really enjoy. I really like his art style.
Mhm.
So it's nice seeing that I did name, because it's like, oh, what's your name? What are all your friends' name? I obviously named them all after Dragon Ball Z characters because I'm a weeb, and
Right.
why wouldn't I? They even look like them. Like the characters look like specific characters from Dragon Ball Z. Maybe it's because Toriyama doesn't have a very broad roster of character designs that he's made, or maybe it's just he did it on purpose. Who knows?
Yeah, that frog does look a lot like the frog.
Well, and I don't even remember her name because I just named her Bulma. I don't remember the official name, but the chick right in the beginning looks like Bulma,
Yeah.
except with brown hair instead of teal.
Yeah.
And she's an inventor too. This was on purpose. Anyway, I despise turn-based combat, but I don't like the active timer. I don't like the active timer in Final Fantasy VII either, and I'm glad you can turn it all off.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of weird. That'd be like something slightly different. And it's like, no, I hate this. However, I also hate random encounters. I really only tolerate it in Pokemon.
Yeah, same with turn-based combat for me. Turn-based combat and random encounters is fine for Pokemon, but I mean, even with Pokemon, I'm glad they kind of made it, kind of semi-random at the moment. I think the new style definitely works a lot better.
And I guess what happens now in Chrono Trigger is it goes from a random encounter to a scripted encounter.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, even though sometimes you're walking back and forth and it's just like, I have to fight this fight. The nice thing is it's like, okay, just like other random encounters, or just like other games where you have turn-based combat and all this jazz, is they don't keep getting stronger. You get stronger and they stay the same.
Right.
So it's like, oh, I'm going to have random encounters walking down this forest lane. You might run into one enemy, you might run into 30. And with this one, it's like, I know how many fights I'm going to have down here, depending on which path I take. And I know after a couple times of coming through here that I'm just going to slam through them. It doesn't really have a long transition, let's fight, things are happening. It just, blam, you're fighting now.
Right.
So while it is a little irritating to go, there's a fight here that I can't miss, it's actually better because it's not like, geez, I wonder how many steps I'm going to take before I have another fight that's going to just waste my resources.
Right.
While it feels more repetitive, it's not nearly as tedious, and I appreciate that because I hate the tediousness of random encounters. It literally ruins most JRPGs for me.
Mm-hmm.
I do thoroughly enjoy Chrono Trigger, but I'm going to mention what other people have not so far. The music of Chrono Trigger alone makes me want to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's excellent throughout.
The score is so good. I've actually just sat down without having finished the game and just listened to the entire soundtrack because it's so good. And that did come from just sort of that era. I mean, Final Fantasy's had great music for a long time. So, I mean, it's just basically the magic behind Square.
Well, and in this case specifically, it was the original composer also did the music for the Xeno series, the Shadow Heart series, and there are a few others. And then he got sick and had to step away from the project. And the man who took over was Nobuo Uematsu, who is the Final Fantasy composer. So, it's no wonder the music in this was so good.
Right. Like Frog's theme, I can listen to that all day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And the good thing is as well, because it's Square, they put all of their soundtracks up on streaming as well. So you can legally listen to the whole thing, on streaming sites.
Yep. One other thing to mention about Chrono Trigger is it has 13 endings, which was, very uncommon at the time. The nice thing about it, the only thing that changes your ending is when you go fight the final boss. So there is a point within the first, 30 minutes of the game that you can go to the final boss. it's recommended you only do that in New Game Plus, but, it is there. And because of the way that plays out, you can actually hit all of those endings in 2 runs if you do it right. And I'm not going to, go into detail on them because it's, the main difference is when you go do the fight. But that was one of the big things about it at the time. And I believe the Nintendo DS release added another one.
Well, it was the DS release that added the 13th ending.
Oh, okay.
It was that remaster. It was 12 endings with a whole bunch, and there's technically more than 12. But there are 12 ending scenarios, I suppose, or ending methods.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of those have, like, slight variations to them. So there's actually, like, probably closer to 20 endings.
Mm-hmm.
But most of them are just, like, slight little twists. You still get to them mostly the same way.
Right.
How is the re-release?
Some people don't like it. Other people say, like, the DS version is the best port.
It depends on who you talk to, and it also depends on which version you're talking about, because there was a version for the PlayStation released. They ported it to PlayStation right before they made the sequel, Chrono Cross. And it was bundled with Final Fantasy IV. Like all of the Final Fantasies on the PS1, it was criticized because it had absurd load times and not a whole lot added to it. I mean, there was a little bit, but just, there was not a whole lot added. The DS release is, from what I've seen, is the one people like the most, and the one that, they added new areas, they added other stuff that ties into Chrono Cross. I haven't played the DS version because it is not easy to find. Obviously they optimized it for the DS, and when they were making it, they specifically said, we want this based on the original release and not the PlayStation version.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also been a mobile release, which, Yeah, it's, it's basically the DS version, but switched around to work on an iPhone. The other notable one was the Windows release, which was so bad. Like, the graphics looked worse. There were glitches. The UI was designed for touchscreens, even though most people don't have touchscreens. Like,
and I don't get how you could have a Windows release for a game made in 1995. I was going to say 4, but yeah, 1995.
I mean, it was made in 94, released in 95. But
okay,
yeah,
well, fair enough. So, but a game that was made
20 years ago,
and it looks worse. I don't know how you can make it look worse. Because, and that's the thing, is Chrono Trigger looks insanely crisp.
Yeah.
It looks, and it's praised for that. Like, that isn't just an opinion. That is, and objectively, it is one of the crispest looking games, especially for how big it is. On the Super Nintendo, it looks outstanding.
Chrono Trigger looks so good. I have an actual, honest-to-God painting of Chrono on my wall.
Oh, wow. You need to share that sometime.
But, so, somehow, in 2018, they made this game look horrible on Steam.
So,
like,
shame on them.
The thing is, if I had, like, an official release, port or original of Chrono Trigger, I would probably suffer through some of the issues that I was having to actually, like, I'd pick that up and I'd buy it and I'd play it. But if it's going to be a bad port, if it's going to be like emulation, like I had the issues with that ROM, then
yeah,
it's like there are too many other issues, like technical issues, that I don't want to play through that, pushing through the technical issues and pushing through the issues that I had with the gameplay. But
right.
if they just release it, if they just release a SNES version somewhere, I will buy it and I will play it.
Right. So here's what your options are in terms of getting hold of this game. You can try to find the original, which, let me just do a quick search.
Well, I know that you can pick up Chrono Trigger for about $150, which is like what, 120 pounds or something like that.
Let's see. Here's a listing for 200. Let me see.
There's
Although
a
that one
complete
is
for 600. We've not played the complete, but you can pick up carts for anywhere between like $80 and $150.
That's still
You
too
can get
much.
you can get repros for as low as like 15.
right. I got. Let's see. Here's a one for 100. This one claims Chrono Trigger cartridge. English with box for $30. I do not believe that.
It's a repro.
It's gotta be. I got mine for $75, and that was because a good friend of mine was selling it and was like, hey, you get the bro price. So, man, there's one complete in box, $382, which is less than I expected.
Yeah, loose carts run about 150.
Yeah,
but repros run the cost of repros because they can't sell a repro game for more because the real copy's rare.
Right.
Repros standard run $20, and I don't really like them, but for games like this and Secret of Mana, where you're going to be dropping $100, $200 on a cart, I'm okay with a repro morally because it's not like these companies are making money off of it anyway.
I mean,
right.
The thing is with repros, though, it's like I don't have a SNES, so I play SNES games on my Retron 5. And they can have issues with repro. I mean, sometimes you're right, sometimes it will play them. I've got a couple GBA games that are repros that will play fine, and a couple that won't. So you kind of like taking the gamble with it.
It is true.
So I would advise people avoid the Steam port. I'm reading that they released some updates to kind of correct some of the issues, but I just don't bother. I don't know what the mobile port's like, but it's,
I'm not playing it on a phone. Yeah.
So your options, there is Final Fantasy Chronicles on the PS1, which is Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy IV. That runs about $20. Sometimes more, sometimes you can find it for less.
And all you really suffer through there is load times.
Right, load times, and that one does, like, you can play that on the same system you play Chrono Cross on, which is nice. They also, apparently I'm reading, released that version of the game as a download for the PS3, Vita, and PSP.
All right.
So that could be an option, if it's still listed.
Yeah, probably load a little bit faster there, too.
Because, I do already have Final Fantasy IV, so I wouldn't want to buy a box with them both in. I'd rather pay a little bit less and get Chrono Trigger on its own.
Chrono Trigger.
I'll have to have a look on the PS3 store, see what the price is.
Yeah, so apparently it's there. I'm looking at the DS, and you can buy it new for $60.
Oh, no.
Used, let's see, used on Amazon, they're starting at $35. So, that's not horrible.
That's still too much for a game that I do.
That you don't really like that much. Yeah. So for you specifically, I would recommend checking out the PSN to see if it's still there. Listeners, if you're like me and you want a physical copy, you're going to be shelling out for this game.
Back when Square had a sale earlier this year, I did pick up all of the PlayStation 1 Final Fantasies on the PSN store for, I think, like $3.99 each.
And I don't know if Chrono Cross was ever released digitally on PSN, but if it was, that's also an option. Doesn't look like it. Okay, so Chrono Cross was released on the PSN in Japan and North America.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Oh, yeah, because it's Square and they're weird about that stuff. Like how you guys got Parasite Eve 1, but not Parasite Eve 2 digitally, and we got Parasite Eve 2, but not Parasite Eve 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is... Yeah, for whatever reason.
Square is not great with the region differences.
It's like they hate money.
Hence why
Right?
I had to import Final Fantasy 3 because it's just nowhere in Europe.
which is weird.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite games. I would highly recommend people check it out. Just find a way that works.
Even if you're not big on RPGs, I would always recommend giving Chrono Trigger a try. Can't guarantee you'll like it, Adam. But I'd still say it's worth giving a shot.
Mm.
And if you don't like the game, then sit down and listen to the soundtrack.
Yeah, I mean, everyone should listen to the soundtrack, regardless of if you play the game or not.
I mean, before this segment, I'm pretty sure we will have put the main theme as the music before this,
Oh, definitely.
because the main theme is awesome.
I know they tour through the US, but I think they tour worldwide, is the Legend of Zelda Live Orchestra. It's like every single year they tour. They might just tour across the US, but I want to say they tour worldwide. I could be wrong. But basically it's a live orchestra and they play a whole ton of music from the Legend of Zelda series.
Square do have one as well. I believe the tour is called Worlds of Final Fantasy.
Oh, right. I always forget about that.
And
They should do one for Chrono Trigger. I just play the soundtrack of the game.
it wouldn't surprise me if they've played Chrono Trigger on one of those. But yeah, anyway, I think we're probably getting off topic there. It is definitely something that I would like to try again with a better version than the one I had. And
Oh yeah, definitely find a better version than that.
and yeah, if I can do that, then I'll probably revisit it and just see if I can get on with it a bit better. Yeah, if that's everything that we've got to say on Chrono Trigger, then I think it's time to move on to our last game.
All right, so similar to Adam this month, back in the Guilty Pleasures episode, I picked TMNT for the NES, and everybody hated it, and everybody hates me forever now, and that's okay.
Damn you.
And I felt, as a way of saying sorry, I would give to you guys this Christmas the version of TMNT that was good and kind of the one that you probably wanted. Because it was the same version that everybody who bought TMNT on the NES back in the 80s wanted, which was the arcade game. And they were so clear on this that it's not just TMNT 2 on the NES, it's actually TMNT 2, the arcade game. They wanted to be crystal clear about what this was so people would buy it, because the first one is a bad game. And TMNT Arcade is raved about as a really good beat-em-up.
Now, was this actually based on an arcade game, though? Because
Yes, this is actually a port of the TMNT Arcade.
I mean, the only arcade game that I've seen out in the wild is Turtles in Time. I've never seen this one.
You don't see it that often.
Yeah, I mean, I think
there's
that's a product of the time more than anything else.
This is a port. It does have a few shortcomings compared to the arcade. The arcade was 4-player. This is only 2-player. Obviously, you can't pump in more quarters for extra lives. You just have what you have. Supposedly, this is just a bit harder overall. And I haven't played the arcade game in quite a while. Last time I played it was out at a retro pub called The Max out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They have a big 4-player TMNT arcade there, and it's super dope. But I own this. I have played it a lot more. It's a TMNT beat-em-up. There isn't really much to say about that. You have your 4 turtles to pick from. Shredder's being a dick. Stop him. That's all that really happens. It has all of your standard levels in it, where it's like run around the city, run around the sewer, and the gratuitous skateboarding level, or surfing level, depending on which game you're playing. The auto-scroller, essentially. And what did you all think? Because I don't really have a whole lot to say about it as a whole.
Well, I thought it played a bit like like Hyperstone Heist or whatever. What was it we played last time?
Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time. I thought it played a bit more like that, but simpler. Yeah, it was just beat 'em up. It was very kind of button mashy, I felt. Like there was some enemy attacks you had to kind of learn, but for the most part it was just kind of hitting. But it was a fun little brawler. Definitely enjoyed it more than TMNT 1. I say it just felt like a simpler version of Turtles in Time, really. It definitely played and looked the part better than the other game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I found you only have kind of like two main attacks. You've got your flying kick and you've got your melee attack. And I kind of found that the flying kick had a bit too much range on it to be useful, because you've got enemies coming towards you constantly. And by the time you've got a flying kick off, it's just missing them pretty much every time. So I just stuck to melee. And I don't know whether that's kind of like down to the character that I picked, because I picked Raphael. But I generally had a hard time. I found it harder than the first game, definitely. But it was a lot more playable. And I was having a lot more fun with it. So I was pretty much just spamming the one attack throughout, which kind of grated on me a little bit. But, it was definitely an improvement.
This is one of those games that I would say, if you can find the arcade version with a friend, it is easily the best, whether you want to load it up on MAME or however you want to play it. If you can play it like that, that's definitely the best way to go about. Also, the game favors spamming basically a little jump slash, like with Donatello. Or not Donatello, Leonardo. You just basically jump and slash with the sword. It's more powerful than a standard melee. It doesn't send you flying like a kick. And you can just sort of spam your way through the game with that. Which, again, that's how you're going to get through in single player.
On reflection, Raphael's probably the wrong character to pick, because he is very short range.
Very short range.
Whereas I'm guessing the others are kind of like a little bit easier if you're mainly using melee. One thing that I did find, the bosses were really hard. They took a lot of hits to bring down.
Yeah, they are damage sponges.
I had not played this game before this, so I tracked down a version, and I started playing and immediately realized I had played this game before, because it was, arcade beat 'em up. It felt a lot like, a lot of the others.
Yeah. You hadn't played this game before, but you had played this game before.
Yeah. That was kind of my experience. Like, oh, it's this game. Definitely better than the original TMNT on the NES. It's fine. Obviously, I like Turtles in Time better, but that's because Turtles in Time is just,
better.
It's like peak Turtles.
Yeah. Turtles in Time is a fantastic close out to the original Ultra Turtle games, really. Because I would call it the Ultra Saga. Because you had, there was 1, 2, 3 Turtles in Time, and then the Genesis got Hyperstone Heist, which was really just Turtles in Time remix.
Right.
Wasn't Turtles in Time the fourth one?
Yes. Oh, well, I want to say that Hyperstone Heist came out very soon afterwards, so I guess Hyperstone Heist would be the final one. But it was also Genesis exclusive. And who ever owned a Sega?
Still have not gotten my hands on a Genesis.
I now have 2 of them.
So do I.
But yeah, I mean, really, there's not much to say about this game as a whole. It is a TMNT beat 'em up. They're all a little of the same. The difficulty varies wildly, like not from game to game, in between the games.
Mm.
Oh, I forgot that there's like 3 or 4 Game Boy games too.
Yeah, I think in the late 80s, early 90s, there was Turtles everything.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
they're so popular.
Honestly, I never really got all that caught up in Turtles hype. I mean, around that time, you were kind of either into Turtles or into He-Man, and I was always more
and you
into
chose
He-Man.
wrong.
I had like all the He-Man toys and Castle
By
Grayskull.
the power of
and everything.
Grayskull.
Yes, but there were a lot less of those than there were of Turtles, weren't there?
Hmm.
I think it's telling how much of an impact Turtles had that I was born in 90, so, was not really of the age to properly enjoy media for a few years, and yet I was still super into Turtles. Like,
Oh,
that
yeah.
it lasted that long.
My brother had a whole bunch of the crazy TMNT action figures that were all stupid. Like there was a Raphael baseball action figure, and you would he pivoted at the waist, and you would put a maybe it was Donatello. Now that I'm thinking about it, because that makes more sense. Because you would put the bow in his hand, and then he would twist the waist, and he would lock, and then you'd click it, and he'd swing. His waist would spin back like he was swinging a bat, and it was just like, what the hell even is this? Why is this an action figure?
Because money.
I think I may have had that. I mean, I did still have like one or two Turtles figures. I'm pretty sure I had one where the waist kind of like snapped back.
It made no sense, and that was okay. A lot of I remember that he had a couple of the TMNT figures where the shell would pop open, and like the arms and legs would fold up into the shell, and like little turtle legs would come out, and the head would spin around for like a normal turtle head. So you had like the pre-mutagen, post-mutagen turtles, and why I don't know, but that was a thing. Before Pokemon, there was the Turtle Mania. Yeah,
like I say, it was everywhere. Even though I was more into He-Man, you know, you can't really escape the Turtles hype. And I did have a few things. Like I said, I had a couple of the figures. I had the Vanilla Ice 7-inch song from the film, that Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go.
Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go. I almost wonder if Turtles would have kept its momentum had Power Rangers not come out in 93. And
I mean, there was a Power Rangers TMNT crossover.
There was, but we don't like to talk about it. But yeah,
there's been a Batman TMNT crossover as well.
Yes, that's actually pretty recent too. It was very dumb, but I liked it.
Yeah, so I feel like Turtles almost set up the Team of Heroes thing that got super big in the 90s. Because, I mean, you had, you know, Power Rangers and Ronin Warriors and Sailor Moon and, you know, all these different, you know, it's a team of heroes.
I am so upset with you right now that you didn't mention the big bad Beetleborgs.
Okay, so Beetleborgs, VR Troopers, and the other Saban shows were just Haim Saban doing more of his own thing. Like,
the big bad Beetleborgs could take on any group of Power Rangers.
they wouldn't fight; they'd work together.
Yeah, right.
Unless you count when they used the suits for Forever Red. But no, like Turtles had such a massive impact, which is why they had so many of these arcade games that did so well as arcades were starting to die out.
And that's the thing is the Turtle Mania died off, but the Turtle fandom never did.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been so many games across all of the consoles, and people just sort of stopped thinking about them after a while because the peak was basically Turtles in Time.
Right. I mean, hell, didn't we just get a new Turtles game a few years ago from Platinum?
Yep.
Yes. Apparently not a very good one.
Well, nope. I mean, you know, that's kind of Platinum's output, isn't it? It's either Bayonetta or Legend of Korra.
So yeah, the fandom is still there. It just kind of like needs the right kind of direction.
We need another Secret of the Ooze.
Yes.
You need to get Vanilla Ice out of retirement. I'm assuming he's retired because I have no idea if he's released anything recently. But get Vanilla Ice out of retirement. Get him to do another Turtles song. They'll be back up on top again. So,
I mean, what's recent to you?
Depends on the context.
Like, he tried to switch up his sound back in like the mid to late 2000s.
I think I remember like a failed comeback.
And he kind of took on a rap rock tone of Limp Bizkit. And he just kind of like redid a bunch of his songs, and it's kind of better.
I know he did a little bit of work with Insane Clown Posse, but outside of that, I'm not entirely sure.
He also had a reality TV show.
Wait, are you talking about...
That must have set the world on fire.
Are you talking about the one on DIY Network?
Yeah, where he like did houses, like he rebuilt houses and shit or something like that.
Yeah. God, that's... Like, I've seen the commercials for that while watching other stuff by that same...
the Vanilla Ice Project.
Company. Yeah. It's like, really?
That was going as late as 2018. Wow. We're totally off track now because Vanilla Ice is way more interesting than TMNT, apparently.
Oh, jeez.
Robert Van Winkle. No wonder he goes by Vanilla Ice.
Guess
Anyway,
it's-
yeah. So TMNT 2, the arcade game, and Vanilla Ice, the American National Treasure.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's a decent enough game.
It's all right.
I didn't manage to get majorly far. I got past the sewer. That was with a major amount of saves coming.
Yeah.
But it is definitely playable. I mean, you kind of know the formula with those Konami beat-em-ups. You know, it's they all kind of play more or less the same. And you know you're going to have like a bit of fun with them, whether it be like Turtles or Simpsons or whatever you.
Right. Really, I hope this just makes up for TMNT 1 a little bit, maybe. It doesn't, I know. I'm sorry.
I still have my cartridge of that. It's like I don't have the heart to give it to someone else.
To inflict it on someone else?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Boy, you gotta stop buying these games you don't like for this podcast.
So yeah. TMNT, thumbs up from me. No thumbs up
Hooray.
from RoboCop, obviously. Adam, did you enjoy it as well?
Yeah, as I said before, it's a pretty solid beat 'em up and very much in the vein of Turtles in Time, just a bit simpler and a bit more button mashy, but it's decent. As you say, it's better than TMNT 1 on the NES, but that's not fucking hard.
Yeah, okay, so that was TMNT 2, the arcade game. That was the 4 games that we've got for you this episode. So we're going to take a quick break and we're going to talk about some of the favourite games that we've played this year and maybe some of the worst ones as well. So we will be back with you shortly. Okay, so that was our 4 games, our Christmas presents to each other this year. Now, throughout this past year, we have played quite a lot of different games for the podcast. We've talked about a lot of different games, and there have been some hits, some misses. So we just wanted to have like a bit of a discussion of what we like really enjoyed this year. I'll start off. As you may know, Doom is one of my like top 5 games of all time. In fact, it's my second favorite game of all time after Silent Hill 2. So that is one that I played as a kid, continue to play to this day. I'm playing through Doom 64 at the minute on PC. And that was kind of like the birth of, well, it wasn't the birth of FPS, but it was the thing that really kickstarted the genre. And interestingly enough, 2 of my favorite games of this year, like outside of Doom, were actually in that same episode. No One Lives Forever and Time Splitters 2, which I would say really kind of surprised me because generally outside of Doom, I don't really like FPS games all that much. But both of those I really liked. I mean, Time Splitters 2 more than No One Lives Forever, I would say. But both of them were really, really good. And I actually completed Time Splitters 2. I sat down, went through the whole thing, and thoroughly enjoyed it. So those were kind of like standout ones for me this year. The other one that really kind of like stands out to me would be from our Disney episode, which was Kingdom Hearts 2, which I actually didn't think I would like because I'm not a big Disney fan outside of a couple films like Alice in Wonderland, Little Mermaid I like. But I'm not really into kind of like Disney's characters like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, etc., stuff like that.
Right.
But it kind of like hooked me in this admittedly convoluted story. It had enough mystery in this story that I wanted to kind of like play through and think like what is actually going on. And it's one that really, really surprised me in that I really, really enjoyed it, and I have since gone back and I now have the whole series on PS4, the ones that are available for the PS4 that I now have in like some form or another.
Did you end up picking up 3?
Yes, I did. I picked that up in Black Friday sale.
Aha, okay.
So that is something that kind of like really dragged me in, and I wasn't expecting it to. So I would say those 3 games, if we're just kind of like discounting Doom, were my top picks for this year out of everything that we've played, really.
Yeah, I mean, mine is admittedly from one of the same episodes as yours, from the shooter. No One Lives Forever would have been up there, but that was my pick. And Time Splitters 2 I find really good, but, revisiting Half-Life, which was the game that John picked for that episode, reminded me of how much I really like that game. That used to be one of my favourite games of all time, which admittedly has been, bumped down a notch, as I've played more and more games. But I still really enjoy playing it, and it's a fantastic shooter.
It was one of the first ones to kind of like really bring the story elements into the shooter and kind of like have a fully fleshed out world that felt lived in and felt like you were taking part in.
Yeah, definitely. Similarly as well, like Metroid Prime 2 is also one of my favourite games. So I think that one was picked by Ryan in the Halloween one. So I've got to, give that an honourable mention as well. And yeah, I think those 2 were probably the big ones. I have to kind of say, as a surprising game, I'd say Getsu Fumaden, but that's in a little bit of a different way. It surprised me because I expected it to be a lot better than it was.
Yeah.
It still has a art style and great music, but considering it's from the Castlevania guys, I expected it to be a bit, better than it actually turned out to be. So that surprised me, but not necessarily in a positive way.
I would say, and this isn't really a, favorite or most surprising, but the game that sent me down the biggest rabbit hole was Marathon. Because, I love Bungie's output, but I had, most of my experience with them is Halo and Destiny. So getting to experience pre-Halo Bungie was very interesting for me, and to the point where I started digging more into their past, and to the point where now, I'm going to have a whole series on just Bungie on my YouTube channel just because of how good they have stayed for such a long time. I don't think they've made anything I would call bad. Marathon was a tentpole one for me this year. I liked No One Lives Forever a lot more than I thought I would, just because, the spy game has never really been a big thing for me, and that one actually did grab me a bit. I still got to get around to Time Splitters because my copy of that didn't work, but I'm sure I'll enjoy that when I get around to it. I mean, other than that, obviously the ones that I either picked or influenced the pick, Kingdom Hearts, Chrono Trigger, stuff that I campaigned for. Obviously I really enjoy those. Resident Evil 4 surprised me. I thought I was gonna hate it, and it was, I see why people like it so much. I'm not as crazy about it, but I don't know. It's been a pretty good year, top to bottom. I mean, aside from some of the stuff.
There have been some really, really good picks this year, I think.
I think Bloodstained was a really good pick. And,
that was a fun game.
Yeah, that was really good.
Bloodstained was good enough to me, and I'm not even a huge fan of classic Castlevania, but it was good enough to me that I actually went and got a physical edition of Curse of the Moon on Switch. That's how much I enjoyed that game.
Yeah.
The full version of it is even better. Not Curse of the Moon.
Ritual of the Night?
Yeah.
You're talking about 2 different games there. Curse of the Moon was old school Castlevania. Ritual of the Night was new Castlevania.
Yeah. I
still need to pick up Ritual of the Night.
I have access to it through Game Pass, but I'm probably not going to play it before it goes off of there.
Right. I want to pick it up and play it on Switch, but I want to make sure that it's been patched and running smoothly on Switch before I pick it up. So, whatever.
Well, I know that Adam has it on Switch. I have it on PS4, and that version runs great.
Yeah, I plan on getting it on Xbox, so...
Switch version's fine. There's a couple of places where it slows down, but it's never unplayable. If you play old games, like the original Symphony of the Night, then you'll be fine. Mm-hmm. People expect it to run 60 frames per second 100% of the time, and it doesn't. So, as long as you're satisfied with that, then it's fine. I never had any issues.
Right.
And I'm going to fix those blips, but honestly, it's not an unplayable mess like some people say it is. People just being snobbish.
All right. I'm going to pick that up then here pretty quick. I don't know. I mean, there were, like Steven said, there were a lot of really good games. I think the cream of the crop, though, was Ukulele. No, I'm joking. I did like Ukulele, though. I know a lot of people didn't. I had fun. I don't know, because there's a lot of games, that I campaigned for to get focused on and also just picked, like, Star Fox 64 is one of my favorite games of all time. It's way up there.
Right.
I think I picked Luigi's Mansion, or was it you, Steven?
That was me.
That was you. I really, really like Luigi's Mansion, like, a lot. I know when we did our new retro, I picked Doom 2016, and that's probably in my top 10 games of all time.
Did you pick that? I thought I picked that.
No. Oh, no? Wait.
No, you picked Ukulele.
Did I pick Ukulele for new retro?
Yeah.
Oh, well. I think I was going to pick Doom 2016. You beat me to it.
Probably.
It's just, obviously, excellent game, but I don't think it's fair to say that's more of an honorable mention because it's not even actual retro, April Fools and all that.
Right.
All that razzmatazz. Games that surprised me how much I liked them, honestly, Pokemon Pinball was way more fun than I thought it was going to be for how not much game there is there. There's a soft spot in my heart for pinball, though. I really like pinball.
Yeah, me too.
So I felt that. So I think that was just kind of like, oh, this is actually a lot of fun. I enjoyed myself way more than I thought I was going to.
Are you good at pinball?
I'm okay at pinball.
Would you say you're a wizard?
No, I am not. I'm not a pinball wizard. Obviously, I have not caught all of the pinball, 151 pinballs. Wait. Different. That's different. A pinball master.
What about the worst games then?
Oh, God. Let me think about that really quick. Like, which game did I hate the most? God dang, that's should be an easy one, but it's not.
I mean, I could really kick off a firestorm and say Half-Life.
But are you? Are you gonna start that fight? Because, like, even I didn't hate Half-Life.
No, the problem is, like, everything we've played, either it was fine or I didn't get to play it because, I couldn't get it to work. So, like, I guess I could pick one of those, but then I'm, lumping Time Splitters 2 in there, and that's going to piss people off.
Oh, you know what? No, the worst game I played was Ghostbusters, and part of that's my fault because I played the NES version.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
fair.
that is why I said so many times, do not play the NES version. It's terrible.
And I threw caution to the wind.
I guess I could piss off the listeners by saying Ocarina of Time, but...
Yeah, Ocarina of Time is one of my worst. I mean, excluding shmups and JRPGs, which just aren't my type of thing anyway.
Right.
Ocarina is probably going to be one of the worser ones on there.
I mean, I would say Getsu Fumaden is probably one of the most disappointing for me. Because, like you said, it seemed like it was going to be better.
I'd go for Getsu Fumaden as well, I think.
I definitely didn't enjoy Crash Team Racing as well. I just felt it was kind of mediocre Mario Kart ripoff. And I didn't really gel with any of the characters, so it was just kind of there. I mean, not necessarily bad or anything. Like, the ones I mentioned now aren't necessarily bad, they're just the worst of the ones that we've played.
The problem with Crash Team Racing is it was a very well-designed racing game that wasn't Diddy Kong Racing.
He's right, though.
I will stand up for Crash Team Racing until the end of time. Except for the remaster.
I mean, yeah, like, I'm with you. It's a good game, but Diddy Kong Racing is better.
I know how to start a fight right now. My second least favorite game this year was Kingdom Hearts 2.
I mean, yeah, a lot of people don't like Kingdom Hearts. It's not news.
I'd go for that, but I say I'm kind of leaving out JRPGs because I don't think it's fair. Because I just basically list all the JRPGs.
I mean, look,
favorite.
this is partially your fault because you let me be on the podcast.
Sounds a lot like victim blaming to me.
I mean, he was the one technically in charge when we started up, so
It's true. It's true. Really, when I look at all these games we've played, most of them I like pretty damn well.
yeah. I mean, we have played some of the greatest games of all time this year. I mean, we played Doom, we played Super Metroid, we played. I mean, this one's a bit more divisive, but we played Chrono Trigger, we played Pokemon Crystal,
We played Halo 2.
Yeah.
We played Donkey Kong Country 2. Like all these things, all these are like.
I mean, we
Most
played
of these
Street Fighter 2.
Are pretty they're renowned games. These are games that almost everybody has heard of.
There are games in this list from this year that changed video games forever.
And then there's Ukulele.
And then there's Ukulele.
But yeah, so I think it's overall been a really positive year. There's been a lot of really good games, a lot of really good discussions. Not too many bad games, honestly. The good ones definitely outweigh the bad this year, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had a good time.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty decent ride this year. Like we didn't have anything super horrendous like last year.
I feel like I feel attacked.
I mean, you weren't the only one that picked something bad last year. Like some of the Christmas games got a little iffy.
I think definitely the change of format helped as well, because it wasn't just letting people go wild with their choices. Instead, we focused on a topic and looked at some key examples from that area.
What I'm hearing is that you got tired of me finding ways to incorporate RPGs.
Well, yeah.
Got tired of just here is somehow another Final Fantasy.
Well, I suppose that leads us nicely into the next part, which is my announcement. I am going to be leaving the podcast. This will be my final episode. And Steven's RPGs have finally broken me. And I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, we'll be definitely sorry to see you go. Hopefully you'll be back for a few episodes here and there.
Yeah, I mean, mainly to do with how my, situation is at the moment, my life is. It's just a bit more difficult to do now than it was when I originally started.
Yeah.
So it's doing this all the time is not really suitable. But yeah, I'll definitely be happy to come and guest every now and then. But yeah, so I wish you guys the best of luck, and I'm sure you'll do well without me, and I'll continue listening.
I think I probably speak for everyone when I say, thank you for initiating this podcast, because it was down to you that we all came together. And it's definitely something that's had a positive impact on my life over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, this, basically the same thing. Like, this has had a good impact on my life, and it's been a lot of fun. And I know it's kind of become something different than it was when it originally started, but I think it's better for what we've been through with it.
I was when this was first going on, my marriage was getting really, really rocky, and then it collapsed a couple months later, and it's all because of the podcast. No, no, but it got really shitty there for me for a while, and having this to look forward to and focus on just really helped. I mean, it sounds silly, but it super helped me out, and it really dragged me through, and I thank you for that. Just this kept me going, because it was really crappy there for a minute.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
So it's where you are going to be missed, and like we've said, where we hope you do show up here and there, surprise visit us. So
Yeah, I will do. Especially maybe during the summer when I've got a bit more time. That might be a good time to do a guest episode, maybe. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, cool. It is definitely the end of an era, but we will continue on, and I hope everyone will continue to listen. I hope Adam will continue to listen as well.
Indeed, I will.
And we will, I'm sure, cover some more great games, some more terrible games next year as well.
Well, as long as Steve keeps picking up his RPGs, then I'm sure you will.
I actually think I have calmed down for next year. I think I picked a lot more of stuff y'all would enjoy next year.
Well, time to start picking RPGs, I guess. You have to leave this on me.
I mean, make no mistake. I got a whole lot of RPGs left to work into this show. I just, it's going to take some time.
And actually, before we finish up, speaking of RPGs, we had a competition last month to win a copy of Pokemon Gold. And I believe, Ryan, you have the name of the winner.
I do have the name of the winner, and this was it was not quite a month long. I actually had to cut it just a little bit short because I was late on getting it out. But it is for a physical original copy of Pokemon Gold for the Game Boy. It comes in a very nice repro case. We had a very good turnout for this drawing. I don't know why. Maybe it was just the ways I had to enter. Maybe it was just the fact that people like Pokemon. I think it's more of the latter. But the lucky winner is Bruno, and I'm sorry if I butchered this last name a little bit, but the winner is Bruno Morera. We will be getting in contact with you very quickly for a shipping address, and all shipping is covered. But we will get that shipped out and sent to you very quickly.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Congratulations.
Maybe we'll have some more giveaways here this upcoming year. Probably should, and maybe you can get lucky and win some more stuff.
You can definitely look forward to a lot more games coming up in this next year. We have a whole bunch of console specials coming next year as well as kind of like usual topics, your seasonal stuff, and a few kind of different ones that we haven't covered before thrown in as well. So hopefully you continue to listen. And just wanted to repeat what I said earlier. Thank you to Adam. We're going to miss you on here. And it will be different, but we will continue on. So it's time for us to say goodbye. So goodbye. We will see you next month.
And I'll see you next whenever.
Next decade.
Oh, you beat me to it. God damn it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.